Okay, guys, so moving forward, something that I really wanted to talk to JD and Emily about was actually everything that's going on with DACA. The House has actually recently passed 2 immigration bills to establish citizenship for millions, guys. We're talking about millions. The first bill is actually to impact those who are unlawfully brought here to this country as children. And then the second bill is a Farm Workforce Modernization Act, which actually provides path to legal status for farmers to make them certified here in the U.S. At least half of them, which is 2.4 million farmers, 2.4 million workers are actually illegal. So I think that that's fucking awesome. I think that's great that these people that are coming to try to make a better life for themselves in the U.S., this is something that's going to make it, because I have friends where it's taken 7 to 10 years just for them to get documented for all the processes that they have to go through. So what do you guys think about what they're trying to propose for this bill, what the House has passed?
So to start with DACA, I think everyone across both boards can kind of have some type of agreement with DACA because these were children who were brought over here. So it wasn't necessarily their clear intention. So even I think both parties can look at children a little bit more innocently and look at them, okay, they deserve some type of beginning. And to stay in DACA, you have to go to school, you have to work, you can't have criminal charges. So there's guidelines for you to be in there. And when DACA started, it was supposed to be aligned to citizenship. Yeah. And then when presidentials changed, that kind of got destroyed. And now you have these kids, millions of kids now in limbo who did the requirements, went to school, followed everything they were supposed to, kind of left up in the air to the point they can get deported at any moment, even though they lived in America their whole life. And you're threatening to deport these children to homes or places they can get murdered at. They have no understanding of. They never lived or stepped foot in. So you want to shove and send them off. So I think that clear DACA thing is very important because it's passed in the House and it's sitting in the Senate. Yeah. And I'm not sure what they're arguing or debating of, but it's kind of sitting in the Senate before it can actually be passed. And I think what's causing that pause is the farmers' portion. Yeah. Because when you go to Republican mindset, they're going to be worried about, they're going to steal our jobs. We just don't want to open the door and let anybody come in here and take everything. But that's not the way to look at it. They're already here working. Our farming literally depends on illegal immigrants.
Literally, this is actually something that Darnell, I'm going to just say it, motherfucker, I'm drunk now.
Just say it, go for it.
I didn't say JD. But that's something that Darnell and I was actually talking about when we recorded our last podcast, is that it's crazy. This is a very big reason that I actually wanted to bring up immigration and other things, so on and so forth, to kind of delve a little more into that, is because a lot of people are very angry that these people who, mind you, are coming straight from their country. A lot of them you're mad at people who can't speak English for taking your job, who's getting paid less and works harder, is what I'm saying.
They're mad at the individual concept. They look at them saying, hey, they're still our job versus jobs we don't really want. And they look at, I have a cousin, for instance, think, they're coming and taking a good job that, we should be able to get. But you have to think, if someone's coming over here with a language barrier, no background, nothing here, and they're able to get the job, then there's maybe something wrong with you and what's going on in your background, your aspect, that you're incapable of finding the job. That's the truth. Push anger to the immigrants because it's easy to do, because it's like dehumanizing again. They don't look at them as people.
They don't.
They think because you're born over there, that you have no rights to anything.
You're less than.
Even though the landlines were different back in the day, and some of those people's ancestors lived on this land, but not to even dive into that. It's literally the fear of they're taking our jobs, they're doing this. But in reality, when they're offered these jobs, most white Americans quit. They're not there for these farm jobs. They don't get paid or do the labor for the amount of money they do get. We depend on these immigrants to work. Like, that's an answer, but, and they're not here. Some people worry about crime. That's the fear mongering. You take these very few instances of things happening and you make everyone believe they're all that way, versus looking for people who are escaping poverty, crime, rape, or domestic violence, and they're looking for a safe place to live. And then everything has guidelines and restrictions. So it's not an open door policy. But even for refugees, lessening the amount of refugees we open
No,
up to.
absolutely. But that's what I'm saying is that these people are seeking refuge. They're looking for a safe place because a lot of these people who are migrating here, essentially, Mexico, for instance,
It's hard
drug cartels.
to be classified as a refugee. It's a very hard guideline.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
I just think they're seeking a better lifestyle because gangs in Guatemala.
It doesn't mean their life is not being threatened and everything.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's what I meant. They're just seeking someplace that's
A better life.
safe.
But even people who try to apply refugee status are getting turned away. And we're trying, even for the legal amount of immigration we bring in, that we open our doors to, they've been making stricter and tying down the numbers even more. And then the fact is we still have cages. We still have children separated. We still have people locked up because ICE is gathering more people. Then we have places to put them, and then we have to put them in hotels and open other like buildings to make cages again, versus actually figuring out the problem, because they push the blame as ICE is a rogue agency and we don't know what's going on, versus you have ICE breaking laws and figuring out people left and right, and then but we're making promises that we're going to keep you safe, but then we're doing all of this. It's scary for people who come here.
Now that you say that, before I do have a question. Do you think that just since, and obviously we're not going to go on a rampage, we all know how we feel about this man. But do you think it's always been difficult for immigrants regardless? I'm not trying to minimize that struggle in any way, shape, or form, because it takes a lot of hard work to get here and to become a citizen and to do what you need to do to be here. Yeah. But do you think that ever since when Trump took office that it kind of escalated it's always been an issue, right? But don't you think that it's been kind of more of an in-your-face issue when Trump took office?
Definitely.
What issue are you specific?
I'm talking about
people being upset about immigrants, or the issue of gathering the immigrants?
More so, I mean, kind of both. Obviously, I think we can all agree that we've seen more people get a little bold with their disregard of immigrants, but more so in the sense of when he came into office, do you think it made it a little more difficult for people who were trying to actually come here to get their
because they were
he passed laws to make it more difficult. So that's literally, yes, he literally passed laws to make it more difficult. And the one thing about Trump is he attacks only one group at a time.
Yes.
So other marginalized groups, because even though he talks about Mexicans, talks about Black people, talks about like Arabic people, and goes down that line, or Asian Americans, he's only attacking one group at a time. So those other minorities bash into that, and it goes into the fear mongering that they're coming to steal your jobs, they're gonna rape your woman.
That's why
it comes to like kind of that savior complex, like, oh, America's safe, and we need to keep America in America and nothing else past that. So it's that fear mongering. He definitely fed into that and amplified it, because that's his whole following. His whole political campaign is fear mongering.
Because that's what essentially one of his, I don't want to say campaigns, but one of the speeches that he made was
his campaign is fear mongering.
Well,
that's
but
his whole background.
No, for sure. But how he was.
Let's not give him too much a platform. That's what.
No, for sure. But that's what I was saying. He was just speaking on how immigrants came over here because they were raping our women, and like she was saying. So that's something that it's always been an issue. I feel like, unfortunately, a lot of more conservative and or maybe Republican or just America people in general.
I think it's poorer conservatives who are pushing the blame of their hard life and pushing it off to all these immigrants are taking our jobs. Because that's the fear mongering they're being built. It's like, look, they're coming, they're doing this, they're bringing this crime rate, versus looking at themselves and reflecting on themselves and taking ownership of what they have going on.